And I found a trailer, or I should say my dad found a trailer, and he lied to me and my brother. He said that he had gotten permission to rent it. And, he claimed that he had bought the trailer and he had gotten permission from the lot owner to rent the lot. So I moved into this trailer, and the hands down legit story is my dad never bought the trailer. My dad never got permission to rent the lot. So I spent a month and a half on the outskirts of town squatting illegally in this trailer with no heat. There was no toilet. The toilet was completely shot to shit. It was plugged up. It had been plugged up for years. The toilet didn't work, and it was full of shit. People had been shitting in that toilet for a while. There was running water, but because the toilet was full of shit from God knows how long, I refused to go in the bathroom to take a shower. And this trailer was so fucking disgusting. They had multiple cats, they had multiple dogs, and they were just complete fucking pigs. Whoever lived there before I decided to start squatting. The trailer was so gross. The only way I can explain it, the trailer was so gross. Just talking about it makes me want to go take a shower. And I lived there for a month and a half, detoxing and withdrawing from meth, from 8 months of heavy meth use. And the whole time, I never took a shower. There was nowhere for me to take a shower. And I had to shit in the yard, or I had to shit in a bucket inside the house. And it was bad. I'm telling you, when you're fucking coming down or withdrawing from meth, you're detoxing, and you're taking a massive shit in the fucking yard. And there's other trailers around. This was in a trailer park on the outskirts of town, so it's not like I was in the middle of nowhere. At any point, somebody could have taken a look and seen me shitting in the yard. This is not a good situation. But I had to go out there because I had nowhere else to go in order to get away from meth. I could have stayed with somebody. I had somewhere I could have stayed. But everyone was a junkie. Everyone in my life was a junkie. And I had enough of it. So I went out to this fucking trailer. The gas lines were still hooked up, so I was able to use the stove. But I had no job. I had no money. I had to steal my food just to eat. And it was an hour and a half walk to the nearest store and an hour and a half walk back. And I did it daily. Sometimes every other day, and I would load up on things. I would steal them. I stole a lot of shit for many years just to survive because I was lost, and I didn't care about myself enough, and I was using a lot of drugs, and I didn't want to work. So I'm in this trailer. There's cat shit everywhere. There's mice everywhere. I mean, I'm telling you, the people who lived there before me, or before I started squatting, I mean, they were meth junkies themselves. They were straight up tweakers. So I mean, this was quote unquote a trap house at one point, and it was awful. It was fucking awful. I should have gone to the goddamn VD clinic afterwards. You know what I mean? It was like the dirtiest, most disgusting place I've ever been. And that's where I went to get clean. I had to get away from everybody in my life, literally everybody, all my friends, and almost all of my family. And I was out there for a month and a half, literally up until my 32nd birthday. And it was hard, man. That whole time, all I was thinking about was scoring. All I was thinking about was, this is fucking stupid. I'm gonna go steal some shit from the store and get some fucking meth. And I fought that urge that whole fucking time. And then my dad would show up every couple of weeks, not to check up on me, not to see how I'm doing, not to see if I've eaten anything, not to see if I have any fucking heat. You know, it gets down to 30 degrees at night sometimes in September and early October. He would come out there so him and his friends had somewhere to do some meth. And I got fucking furious. My dad and I have been at each other's throats ever since I was a young adult. You know, my early 20s, I finally was able to see through his bullshit and realize how much of a piece of a shit he was. And I've almost killed him a couple of times. And when I'm out there jonesing my fucking ass off, and I want nothing more than to get fucked up, but at the same time, I'm making that commitment to get clean. I'm making that commitment to do what I have to do to turn myself around. And he fucking shows up with meth. Yeah, that didn't go very well. That didn't go very fucking well at all. I'm not going to really go into detail about that because it's irrelevant to the story. Basically, long story short, I threatened to kill him. And it was not an empty threat. I told him if he came back around me with meth or while he was high, I would put a fucking knife in his throat. And I meant it. Because I made the decision to turn my shit around, to do what I had to fucking do to get my head straight. And I wasn't gonna fucking have my own fucking father, keep me down anymore. And it's not just his fault. I can't blame my dad for the decisions that I've made. You know, I became a drug user on my own, right? That was all me. But when I decided to make changes for the positive, make changes for the better, he was there to try to keep me down. And I'll fucking never forgive him for that. He'll never listen to this podcast, but I hope if he does, I hope he feels like a piece of shit. Because that's exactly what he is. I'll never forgive him. So I'm out there for a month and a half. No showers. I'm shitting in the yard, and if I'm not in the yard, I'm shitting in the house. Into a bucket or a fucking cardboard box or whatever. No options. I got no options to me. No options available. I'm using newspaper to wipe my fucking ass. This is how bad it is. You know what I'm saying? But every day my head gets a little clearer. I get a little more focused. You know, I've got no internet out there. It's a 45-minute walk to the nearest Wi-Fi signal. 45-minute walk to the nearest Wi-Fi signal. And all I had were audiobooks that I had downloaded and podcasts that I had downloaded. And that whole month and a half, Stephen King and Dean Koontz audiobooks and the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, the Bill Burr podcast, and the Fighter and the Kid podcast. That shit saved me. That shit saved my sanity. I was completely isolated. I was completely alone. I was so fucking depressed. but I had audiobooks and podcasts. And I'll never forget the impact that those things had on me psychologically. If it wasn't for those things, if it wasn't for the fact that I could listen to Joe Rogan and Brian Callen and Brendan Schaub and Bill Burr and Chris D'Elia and Stephen King's books and Dean, if it wasn't for those things, I would have fucking lost my mind, and I would not have succeeded. I wouldn't have succeeded in getting off that shit. I would have given up, and I would have gone back to town. I would have stayed with somebody who had internet, and I would have gone right back into my habits and rituals of drugs and constant Facebook use and blah fucking blah fucking blah. It's pathetic. You know, the way I lived my life for a long time was fucking pathetic. But I had nothing to live for. I didn't care about myself. You know what I mean? I didn't give a fuck enough about myself to try harder. In the back of my mind, I was always like, you know, if I had a girlfriend, if I had a good woman in my life, I would move mountains for her. I would better myself for her. I would want to be the best me I could be for her. Or if I had children, if I had kids, God, I wish I was a dad. So bad. I would be such a good fucking dad. But I don't have kids. So I didn't have anything other than myself to care about. And I just didn't care about myself enough to try. Until I went out to this fucking trailer and started fighting. And that was just the first step. That was just a baby step. You know, I got off the meth. I did. And I only ever relapsed once about 4 or 5 months later. And that's because, well, to be honest, I thought I was buying Molly. But he only referred to it as M. I thought he meant Molly, and when I bought it, turns out I had purchased a gram of meth, and you know, me being me, I had drugs there, and I wanted to get high, so I used it, and I fucking hated myself for it. And I've never touched meth again since. And I would not have even had that particular relapse had I understood what he was trying to sell me. I fucking can't stand meth. And I can't stand meth users when they're around me. You know, some of my closest friends on Facebook are still current users, and I don't judge them because I know what they're going through, and I know what it's like. And I believe in them, and I believe that eventually they will be able to beat it. But when a junkie gets in front of me, in my face, or they're around me, or they're using around me, I will get fucking violent. I will get violent. Because everyone who knows me, they know by now, I've told them all, you bring that shit around me and I will fuck you up. I will fuck you up. And I'm not kidding. But it was just being out there for that month and a half and getting over that initial hurdle. It took me a month and a half before I felt confident enough to go back into society or back into town and say no. If anybody asked me if I wanted it, I could say no at that point. I still wanted it, but I could deny it. I could turn it down. But I had that was, like I said, just the beginning, because I had to then deal with months of depression, serious depression. I still wasn't ready to get a job. Still wasn't ready to handle responsibility. And for the next 6 months, I was still a complete worthless piece of shit.